getting started. Right, there we go. It's all moving now. Things are happening. Do apologise for being just a little bit on the late side, just getting things up and running. Took me a little bit of time just to get organised, get things working correctly, laying things out. This is actually quite a complex process, doing a tutorial live, hence that's why it's taken me a little bit of time to get it sorted out. So bear with me, we are going to start very shortly once I've checked my sound. Okay, my sound is good. Okay, good. Right, sound is good. Look, if you are re-watching this live stream, you will find the start time down in the description as always. So please feel free to go down there, click on there, and you can get past all of this sort of stuff. Otherwise, if you haven't been part of my live streams before, particularly the mini combat tutorials, usually what I do is I will present everything first, and once I've presented everything first, and we will run through a scenario, there will be an actual combat that takes place. I then open it up to questions near the end once I've finished doing everything. I'm going to say that this is probably going to take maybe, I'm hoping about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. I think I underestimated how long it would take me to get through the last one. So feel free to say hi to me, ask questions, give feedback, all that sort of stuff, and I'm pretty much ready to go now. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and today we're doing a mini combat workshop for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and we're going to be covering the Barbarian. Why not? It's something that is relatively simple for a new player to understand and use, because a lot of their abilities are built into the stat block, so you don't have to kind of remember a lot of stuff. The only real thing you need to remember is the fact that they have an ability called Rage, which we're going to talk about very, very briefly, but I'm going to run through a scenario with you demonstrating how Rage is used in an actual combat that I will use miniatures and so forth with. So what I've done with the Barbarian in the past, I've done a series on the Barbarian, and you can go and check those out if you want to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a single combat, and once I've done that, I'm then going to sort of finish it off, and you can ask your questions and things like that. And you can do that either in the live chat or in the comment section. That's all fine. So for today, I have taken from the Dungeons & Dragons website. There is a link down in the description where you can find the character sheet, the pre-generated character sheet for the human Barbarian that I'm using for today. So if you want to know what all the numbers are and all the statistics are that I was talking about during the video, everything is being referenced from this particular PDF, which you can download for free. They provide you with characters from levels 1 through to 10 for all of the different classes. So if you want to play a Barbarian or a Sorcerer or something like that, you can download pre-generated characters, and they go from levels 1 to 10, as I said. Okay, so let's have a look at this character sheet very briefly. Some basics to understand. At level 1, really, we don't have a huge amount to worry about. At level 1, we're looking at things like unarmored defense. For the Barbarian, it's already built into their character. You don't usually have to figure that out, because you shouldn't be wearing armor. You should be wearing no armor. And unarmored defense, very quickly, it's basically your armor class is going to equal 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your constitution modifier, which means you need to make sure when you're building your character or using the character that those things are added in. Now, the character sheet that I provide you with, that I showed you a second ago, that's all got that built in. So make sure your strength and constitution are good and high, otherwise it's not going to work out too well for you. Okay, so that's the first feature at level 1 that you get. And then, of course, right off the bat, you get your Rage. Now, Rage recharges if you finish a long rest. Here's the thing. At level 1, you're only going to get 2 Rages to use. That doesn't sound like enough, but trust me, you're not going to get through that many combats before you're going to have to rest, to take a short rest or take a long rest anyway, particularly at level 1. Level 1 characters really can't go at it for too long before they need to take a rest. So don't worry about blowing all those rages, just go for it. Okay, I'm going to just go over the basics very quickly. It's a bonus action to use when you rage. You get advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws when you make a melee, a melee or a close quarter weapon attack using strength, not dexterity. It has to be strength, so no finesse weapons here. You gain a +2 bonus to your attack's damage roll, not the attack modifier, just the damage that you do. And it's built into the character sheet that I'm providing you with today. You also gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. A lot of people ask, what about magical weapons? Do they get through that? No, there's no reference to the ability of being overshadowed by magical weapons. So if the Barbarian gets attacked by a magical weapon, it's not going to go through their resistance for bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing. So don't worry about that. They can't cast spells, or should I say, they can't cast spells and concentrate on spells when they're in a rage. Their rage will last 1 minute, so you have 10 rounds to get the job done. After that, you're going to fall unconscious, and you don't really want to be doing that. No, make sure you get it all done. You can go out of your rage before that happens by using your bonus action if you want to. Okay, so scenario today is we are in a temple location. This is like a jungle temple. We have an ogre just over here. We have our barbarian, and today we're going to call our barbarian Bob. I think Bob's a good name for a barbarian. I know it sounds terrible. Okay, maybe it's not a good name for a barbarian, but I'm going to call him Bob anyway. So Bob is exploring this jungle temple location. He's been separated from the rest of the party, and he sees up ahead what looks like an enormous creature. It's very bulky, it's got a big stomach. It's wielding what looks like a great axe in its hand. It's got a necklace around its throat with some sort of bone hanging off it, and it's covered in what looks like hides around its wrists, its torso, not so much as torso, around its crotch area and around its feet. Sort of makeshift shoes really, but not really going to do much good really because they were worn through. So this is a strange creature. It roars, and really its only instinct, doesn't really talk, it just goes straight at him because that's what ogres do, okay? And also to it, for the nature of this particular encounter, it makes it a lot easier for me if we just get straight into combat. So I'm going to use the whiteboard again as I did before, and I'm going to roll initiative for each of the creatures, and then once we've determined our initiative, we'll go into combat. So first off, we'll start with our ogre, and I believe we're going to roll, I think I'll roll on the board. I rolled a 2, so we add 2 to the dexterity modifier of our ogre. Now our ogre only has a -1. It's very, very low. So that's 2 -1 for its dexterity modifier, which is its initiative modifier. Our ogre gets a 1 on its initiative. That's pretty low. So I'm going to put it way down the bottom here. 1 ogre. There we go. And it's got a 1. I'm pretty sure that the barbarian's going to be higher, so I'm going to put it down right now above. There we go. Barbarian. Okay. And we're going to use these little things here later on to indicate where we are starting at. Okay, so now I'm going to roll initiative for the barbarian. So grab a 20-sided dice and then look on your character sheet, and the character sheet will indicate its initiative, which is the dexterity modifier. Dexterity modifier is +2, so 2 on whatever I roll on the dice. I rolled a 15, add 2 is 17. So 2 plus 15 is 17. There we go, there's our initiatives. Not too bad, so that definitely means the barbarian is going to get to go first, because when you roll your initiative, you then place everybody into order. Okay, whoever has the highest score goes at the top, whoever has the lowest scores go below that, and you work your way through numerically. So we're going to start with our barbarian in this combat. Now for the sake of keeping a track of hit points in terms of who takes what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box here, and in that box I'm going to write down how many hit points the barbarian has and the ogre has. So the barbarian only has 14 hit points. Yes, I know it sounds like I'm being really, really unfair and giving the barbarian a hard time by pulling out an ogre, but it doesn't matter. It's not a real encounter, it's just a demonstration. The ogre has 59 hit points. That's a lot. So I don't imagine the Barbarian will get through this combat very well, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so there we are, we're ready to go. First thing, the little marker indicates when somebody's taking their turn. So I'm placing it at the top for the Barbarian, because the Barbarian will make his first attack decision. Now, I would imagine most Barbarians aren't necessarily going to go straight into a conversation with an ogre who's roaring and raising its axe and charging towards him. But they could if they wanted to. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my character forward. Now, it has a speed of 30 feet. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And instead of pulling out my axe and getting ready with my greatsword, this one actually has a greatsword, the Barbarian. Although the miniature has an axe, it's supposed to be a greatsword. That's what the character sheet has on it. I'm going to use a hand axe. I'm going to throw a hand axe because I can pull one of those out and hit it at the ogre, and it has a chance of actually hitting the target. There is some obstructions here. There's like a statue here and a pillar. The pillar's not the issue, it's the statue. And the creature's a little bit further down, lower ground, so partially covered. So the armor class on our ogre is going to be increased by +2. Its normal armor class is an 11, so +2 for the cover is going to be 13. So I need to roll either 13 or greater on my attack with my hand axe to be able to hit the ogre. So grab your 20-sided dice, and then for my hand axe, it's simply a 6-sided dice. Just like that, piece of cake. Now it has a range of 20 feet, and it can go up to 60 feet, but that's with the disadvantage. So that's 10, 5, 10, 15, 20, so it's disadvantage on the attack. Now I don't have to do this, but it's sensible to first off make sure that you do something fairly quickly. I'm also going to use my bonus action and go into a rage. Now, half the thing that a lot of people get confused by is you have to make an attack to maintain your rage. So as long as I take my bonus action, throw the axe, even if I miss with the axe, it doesn't matter, my rage will continue on. So I'll roll my attack right now. And it's with disadvantage because it's at range, so I rolled a 6 on that, so I need to roll another dice to determine whether I get the 6 or I get something else. I got a 1, so 1 is an automatic miss. Okay, it's not a very good dice, that one. I'm going to just switch it out for the white dice with a black mark on it. There you go, that's a little bit easier to see. So that's an automatic miss. So I don't get anywhere, but I'm now raging, which means I now have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Really important because there's a good chance that the ogre is going to do some damage very shortly. So we'll move this out of the way, and I will move on to our ogre. So I had my turn with my Barbarian. Ogre's turn. It's going to move, and it can move reasonably quickly. It moves 40 feet, so it's going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so it's now in contact. It's time to rumble. Grab that 20-sided dice to make the attack roll. The ogre has a great club and does quite a lot of damage. It's actually 2 8-sided dice worth of damage, and you add 4 to whatever you roll. So I'll roll my attack first. I rolled a 10, and I'm going to be adding my attack modifier for that, which is a 6. So 6 plus the 10 on the dice is 16. 16 is greater than or equal to the armor class of our Barbarian, who has an armor class of 14 right now. So that's going to definitely hit. So we don't need to worry about that. We'll roll some damage. 2 8-sided dice. I rolled an 8. Oh, I'm rolling very high. And a 1. And I get to add a grand total of, I believe it's 4 to that. So that's 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Now, I don't take 13 hit points off my Barbarian because the type of damage that the ogre is doing is bludgeoning, which means I have resistance. Resistance means I take only half the damage I would normally take, rounded down. So because the ogre did 13 points of damage, I halve that. That becomes 6.5. I can't have a half, so I round it down to 6. So our Barbarian only takes 6 damage. which is kind of handy because we're going to need those hit points later on. So we'll just cross that out, and we'll put a big 8 there. So what would have been a pretty brutal situation has actually been helped by the fact that in the very first round, the Barbarian decided to take the opportunity to use Rage straight away. And as I said, it does not matter if you do damage or not, you just have to make the attack. If you fail to make an attack, you could potentially lose it. Okay, next. We're back up to the top. It's the Barbarian's turn again. So we're going to make a different type of attack. We threw our hand axe, it missed. We're going to go great sword this time. So grab your 20-sided dice. No disadvantage. Don't worry about range this time. It's all fine. So roll that dice. I rolled a 16, and I'm going to add my attack modifier, which is a +5 for the great sword. So that is 16 plus 5 is 21. 21 is greater than the armor class of our ogre. Our armor class on our ogre is now 11. It doesn't have the benefit of cover anymore because it's not behind cover. And so its armor class is only 11. So we got equal to or greater than the ogre's armor class. We hit. We grab our dice to roll our damage. For our great sword, one of the benefits of having a great sword is you get 2 6-sided dice to roll, which is better than rolling usually a 12-sided dice. Surprisingly, but yes, it is. Just mathematically, that's how it works out. Because we are raging, instead of adding +3, which is our strength modifier to this attack roll, this damage roll, we're going to be adding a 5 because we get another additional 2 every time we make an attack and we are raging. Every time we make an attack and we're raging, we get an additional 2 when we're level 1. So I'm adding 5 to whatever I roll on dice. Okay, that's good news. That's a 5 and a 6 plus 5. So 5 is 10. 10 plus 6 is 16. So 16 damage on the ogre. Good news. So we did quite a lot. Now there's no resistance. Our ogre has no resistance to that type of damage. Okay, so that if you were worried about that, don't worry about it. It doesn't have resistance to it, so it's not going to be able to reduce that damage in any way. So that was now 43. Oh, I'm sorry about that. That's a little bit lopsided, but if you can't see, you'll let me know, I'm sure. Okay, so that's our first attack. We only get one attack at level 1. That's all right. We also have the opportunity to use other features, but right now we're just going to go with the rage, okay? All right, cool. Next, down to our ogre, who gets to make an attack as before. So grab your 20-sided dice, rolling a 20-sided dice. We're going to add, oops, it's a 1. It doesn't matter what I add to the 1. 1 is always going to be a miss, so the ogre misses. That happens. All right, so we're now back up to the top, and we'll do our Barbarian. Time for Bob to lay down some heavy hits, right? So roll your 20-sided dice to make your attack with your great sword. I got a 10. Add the attack modifier, which is +5. So that's 15. 15 is greater than or equal to the armor class of the ogre, who has 11. So that's a hit. Grab your damage dice. That's 2d6. I'm going to add our rage of +5 to whatever I roll here. See how much we can get in here. We rolled really high again, pretty much the same as before. That's a bit strange, but trust me, man, I didn't load the dice. Okay, so 5 plus 6 is 11. We add another 5 on top of that. That's 16, just as before. So we'll rub this out here. So that's going to be, take away 40, 30, 27. It's now down to 27. Who would have guessed? This is what makes me frightened of barbarians, just their ability to withstand and dish out damage. It's frightening. Okay, so we're still raging, still doing our thing. It's only been a couple of rounds. So Barbarian has finished, Bob is done, we're back onto the ogre. The ogre is going to make another attack. And oops, it rolled off. I will roll it again so you can see it, so you believe what I've rolled, because the other one might not have believed me. I got a 14. So 14 plus the attack modifier for our ogre, which is a +6. So 14 plus 6 is 20. 20 is greater than the armor class of the Barbarian, which has an armor class of 14. Need to be equal to or greater than. So ogre hits. Grab 2 8-sided dice. I'm going to roll those, and then we're going to add our +4. So it's quite possible this could hurt a lot. I rolled a 7 and a 7. Okay, so there we go. 7 plus 7 is 14. Add 4 is 18. That's a lot of damage to take. That is a lot of damage. And as you can see, it's still, the Barbarian's still got resistance. Even though we've taken 16 points of damage, which is bludgeoning from that great club, we have resistance. So the 16 gets halved, it becomes 8. It's still not going to keep us up, unfortunately. So now our Barbarian is on 0 hit points. Whoops, I'm going to use the big pen. I'll use the big pen. There we go. Okay, so 1 Barbarian down. It's very sad, it does happen. If you go straying or walking around on your own, it's going to happen someday. Okay, so the ogres can decide to do other things like move. It doesn't have a bonus action to spend, so it doesn't do anything like that. It could attempt to do something like pick up the weapon that was held by our Barbarian, but for this purpose, I'm not going to worry about that. We'll follow up later on with the ogre if we need to. Okay, so now it's back up here to our Barbarian, who would normally get to do something, but currently our Barbarian is unconscious. This is when you reach 0 hit points and you haven't been killed outright, you have to make what's called a death saving throw. And you get to, usually you'll get up to 3 of these, depending on what you roll. I'm going to roll a 20-sided dice. If I roll a 1, that is going to be 2 failures rather than 1 failure. If I roll anything from 2 through to 9, that is 1 failure. If I roll anything from 10 through to 19, that is 1 success. If I roll a 20, I'm on 1 hit point and I get up and I can have my turn. What we want is a 20. We might not get it though. Here we go. Rolling dice and we'll see what we get. Now, one of the things you've got to understand is we were raging, okay? We have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. Here's the problem, okay? Your rage is going to end if you get knocked out. So we don't get to have advantage on our death saves. It's not a strength check, it's not a strength saving throw, so don't get confused by that. It's just a straight roll, and we're going to add our constitution modifier or saving throw in this case. The saving throw for the is it saving throw? No, it's just a straight roll. Straight roll. Here we go. So we got a 14. 14 is 1 success. Not dead. We have to make 2 more to be stable. Now, at this point, the ogre could continue to make attacks. Doing so would grant it advantage because the creature, the Barbarian, is prone, so you get advantage when you make a melee attack and you're up close within 5 feet. Okay. Also, too, if I do hit, it's considered a critical hit, and that could potentially mean that I take 2 failures, or it's entirely possible that the Barbarian might be killed outright because it doesn't have resistance anymore. Okay. All right. So what we'll do is we'll play that out and see what happens. Why not? We're here. You're here. All right. So we'll make our attack with advantage. Where's another dice I can use? There we go. Great club comes down. Oh, sorry. Ogre's turn. Okay. So I got an 18. I got a 17. So 18 plus the attack modifier of the ogre is a 18 plus 6 is 24. It's greater than the armor class of our Barbarian. It's greater than 14. So we definitely hit, which means it's going to be a critical hit. So instead of rolling just 2 8-sided dice, I get to roll another 2 because it's a critical hit. That's a lot of dice. That's 4 of them, plus I get to add the modifier, the strength modifier of +4 for the Great Club. So we'll roll this. Okay, so I got an 8. I got a 6, I got a 4, and I got a 1. So that is 8, 14, 18, 19. and then we're going to add our +4, so that's 23 damage. Now 23 damage is greater than the maximum hit points of the Barbarian, who only has 14 hit points and currently is sitting on 0. So that blow would instantly kill our Barbarian, and our Ogre will be free to eat him at his leisure. So that's how a combat can work. And you can see the Barbarian did pretty well, considering it took down about half the Ogre's hit points before it was felled. So that's no mean feat, considering that the challenge rating for an Ogre is challenge rating 2, and you're only dealing with one Barbarian who's level 1. So not a bad show if you ask me. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to cover for today. I don't think we'll cover anything else. We'll just skip over to here and we'll go through the end credits, and then you guys can ask some questions. Seduction, I love it. We're getting back to that, Eric. Okay, so if you found this interesting and useful, please share and like the video, okay? If you like the sort of thing, I do this about once a week for people so that they can see how to play the game, how combat works, stuff like that. This is not really an RPG or role play encounter demonstration. This is just a combat focused one. So if you like this sort of thing, please consider subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, hit the the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. If you want to support my channel, you supported my channel by watching this, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. I also have many more videos that you're welcome to go and check out if you want to, hundreds of them in fact. I don't do Patreon, but down in the description I have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon where you can go and buy stuff online. I get a small commission, you pay exactly the same price, just go through the link, buy what you want, and you don't have to buy the thing I've linked to, just go through that link and then search around for what you want. Okay, that all works perfectly fine. Now, questions in the chat. I see that there's already questions popping up in the chat, and I will respond to you in a second. If you're not part of the live stream though, you can still ask your questions, give your feedback, disagree with me, say hi, say whatever it is. You can do that all down in the comment section. To be fair, I'm probably not going to respond to the negative stuff. I'm probably only going to respond to the stuff that is constructive in some way. So yeah, as I've said, I don't respond to all the comments nowadays. Okay, so that's that. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Just need a drink of water, guys, because I've been talking a lot. Oh, look at this. I said it was going to be 15, 20 minutes. It's like 27 minutes. I lied. It just takes a lot longer, depending on what's going to happen, right? I can't plan for everything. Okay, back to here. And let's go through the comment section. What have we got here? Gold Force Games. Hi. How's it going? Welcome to the live stream. Hopefully you found this useful. I'm hoping that you have some questions or some feedback for me. Eric, no diplomacy, RPG between Ogre and Barbarian. Yeah, well, I'm not saying that it is not possible to have no sort of role play or diplomacy between an Ogre and a Barbarian. It is an odd combination to have a role play between, but just for this case, I just want to get straight into the combat. No attempt at seduction. Eric, I think you probably hit it on the nose there. If maybe the Barbarian had basted himself with oil and sweet smelling herbs, the Ogre would have been much more interested in cooking him alive first. That's always my view on it, Cook them live rather than cook them when they're dead. Darren, how's it going, Darren? Yes, the Ogre did smash, but to be fair, the Ogre is a lot larger, a lot more powerful, and it's only one Barbarian, and the Barbarian did pretty well, if you ask me, considering Bob's only level 1. He's only level 1. Nathan Kelly, how's it going? Finish him. Yes, well, definitely. We finished the Barbarian. What can I say? I'm a dungeon master. There are very few times when I get an opportunity to down characters, so I decided I decided, considering I had put a picture up that showed you Dritz and his fellow, was it Wolfgar? Well, I can't remember, from the Dritz stories, I felt like I needed to give you a big creature. And I wasn't going to put a big, huge giant. That just seemed a bit too ridiculous. Eric, what's that? So rage is a bonus action. Yes, it is a bonus action. Make sure to use your bonus action first. Don't go into a rage after you've made your attack. Make sure that's the first thing you do. But does the attack action happen first without rage? Look, all you do is you select to go into a rage as a bonus action, then you take your action to make your attack. That's how I would do it. Don't go into a rage after, because it's the wrong way around. That's all it is. Nothing else to it. I do have a video on rage, and it's pretty extensive, so you're welcome to go and check that out. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Cool, yes. But I will just pull up that page, because I know there's a few questions that people have, and I suppose I should make sure that I highlight them now rather than whip past them and have you confused. So here's the gist of it. You only get so many rages per day, and then you've got to take a long rest, which we already discussed. But I highly encourage people to use your rages as soon as you possibly can. And it's not just because you get a benefit in terms of attack. That isn't the key reason. It's the fact that you get your damage resistance. Getting damage resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, since those are some of the core types of damage that you can take, is a huge benefit. You want to have that, so make sure you do it straight off the bat. Damage reduction is always a good thing. The rage ending can end after 1 minute, so lasts for 1 minute, ends after 10 rounds. If it ends early, you are you are unconscious or knocked unconscious. But that's not really a big deal. As long as you've dealt with the villains and the monsters and your opponents, who cares? And you haven't attacked. So you have to make sure, now this is the thing I want to keep pointing out, you have to have attacked a hostile creature. If you go attacking a non-hostile creature, you're going to lose your rage. But the ogre was definitely hostile. You can also end your rage on your turn as a bonus action. It doesn't actually state here that you lose the rage if you become unconscious. But my understanding, and I'm pretty sure in the video I did on rage, you do in fact lose it if you are unconscious. You have to be conscious. It's like if it were to end early, and that one sentence that it says just after your rage lasts 1 minute, it ends early if you are knocked unconscious. He was knocked unconscious, so it does state that you'll lose it if you are knocked unconscious, or if you end it because you haven't made an attack against a hostile creature. Okay, I think that's it. I've repeated myself a gazillion times. It should be clear as a bell. And I'm going to leave you guys. Have a good night, have a good evening, day, morning, afternoon. I will catch up with you probably in about 2 days' time. Tomorrow is likely to be a pre-recorded video rather than a live stream, just to give myself a breather so that I can actually collect my thoughts and prepare the next video, because that's what it's going to be about. We're going to do something else. Okay, that's it guys. You guys all look after yourselves.